So today we have our candidate forums, and may I introduce Dave Dusick. He's our moderator. Please welcome Dave Dusick.
Yay, Dave.
Yay, Dave.
You are so moderate.
You know, I practice at home. So I'm not Doug, but don't worry, he took out the big words, so we'll be okay. Okay, today we are highlighting candidates running for commissioner for the Port of Olympia. Can everybody hear me?
What?
Hello.
There you go.
Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Today we are highlighting candidates running for commissioner for the Port of Olympia. The Port of Olympia is a municipal corporation governed by 5 elected commissioners who set policies and objectives. Each commissioner represents a district within Thurston County and serves a 4-year term. The commissioners appoint the port's executive director, who is responsible for the ongoing management of the port's enterprises and facilities. As defined in state law, ports levy taxes, promote economic development, create incidental park and recreational facilities, and adopt and enforce regulations for moorage and toll facilities. Commissioners set objectives, policies, and overall port direction through comprehensive plans. The position is considered nonpartisan. Although elected by district in the primary election, all voters in Thurston County are eligible to vote for the port commissioner in the general election. There is no incumbent running for this district. Today, running for the position, we have Jasmine Vasavada and Bill McGregor. Please join me in welcoming the candidates to the microphone. Page 2. Okay, each candidate is allowed to make a 2-minute introduction, and we're going to time you. So when you see me get a little close to you, we call that the Doug Moss Shuffle. When we get a little close to you, that's when your time is up. Who would like to go first?
Ladies first.
Down and done.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
It's nice to meet you all, and mostly for the first time, except, of course, my fellow candidates who we've been on the campaign trail together for a while. My name is Jasmine Vasavada, and I'm running for District 1 Port Commissioner against one of the most formidable opponents in the race, Bill McGregor. And he's formidable because of basically, 4 terms of serving as Port Commissioner. I'll take a minute to introduce myself and a little bit just more background before we get into the questions, which I think I'll get to answer why I want to run. And I want to say that for me, this sort of group, the Gateway Rotary Club, what I see here, the collaboration and trust that's built when you know that the person next to you takes 4 half and halves in their coffee and you break bread with them in the morning is exactly what we need, right? So that democracy doesn't continue to decline. And in 2000, I was recently out of undergraduate. I was a science major. My parents are immigrants. My father is Indian. There was an expectation of the sciences as sort of the basis of my studying. And I wrote a book called Bowling Alone. Have any of you heard of Bowling Alone? No, Robert Putnam. So kind of a demographer, political scientist who said that he could associate sort of the declining civil commitment of people, civic commitment, not civil commitment, that's for the county commissioner meeting. He could associate it sort of with whether people were still in Rotary clubs and in bowling leagues, and there'd been this massive decline in that sort of affiliation. I grew up in New Jersey suburbs where people were often commuting an hour and a half to get to work. And so one of the beautiful things, he's not coming close yet, about Thurston County for me and as a forever home that my wife and I chose to settle here, was that in Thurston County we still have a quality of life where people can be active in their community, can live, work, and play without that sort of extreme commute. And I'll talk to you more in a minute. Thank you.
Hey. 2 minutes goes fast.
I don't need to tell you a lot about me. Tom, would you hold up that rack card I put on the table? That kind of explains a lot about my experience. Thank you back there. Anyway, it talks about my experience in the port industry. It talks about some of the things that have happened as a result of it. My service as a U.S. Coast Guard vet, all those things that are important to me. I've been on the water or involved in the waterfront for 46 years. I also work part-time at the Olympia Yacht Club with their administrative duties, so I can stay close to the water. I can see those ships come in and load and unload, and it's always been a fascination of mine and a passion. I am a 40 year. I wish at one time I was 40. I'll make that disclaimer. But I'm also a 40-year foster parent. My wife and I continue to do that even today. Not on a long-term basis, but we do offer a bed or a room or whatever a child might need for a night, a week, that type of thing, but very short term. Anyway, I am passionate about the port. After 4 re-election cycles in a different district, I moved to a different district at the end of my last cycle. And so Commissioner Downing has elected not to run again. I said I've got to get back on there. I think there are some important decisions that are going to be made coming along here very shortly, and I want to be part of that. I want to be supportive of the port, supportive of the community as we reach out and do things that are outside the sandbox, I like to think. Ports are unique individuals, and I think I'm the most experienced, and I think experience matters in this case with two new districts coming online here shortly. So, thank you.
Thank you, candidates. So question number 1, and you have 1 minute to answer, by the way. What are the 3 most pressing issues facing the Port of Olympia, and how will you address them?
Bill, flip a coin.
Mark, paper, scissors? You pick. Sure. Bill?
I see 3 things, and they're kind of listed on the rack card there as well. I think we've had a need to have a stronger leadership team. I hope to bring some of that experience because I've worked as a port staffer for 27 years in the port industry, and of course being on the elected side for 15 years as a port commissioner. I hope to bring some balance to that. I think we're going to get the opportunity to hire a new executive director here very soon, and the new commission should have a stake in that and be proactive as we develop that. So I'm looking forward to that. Environmental is still a concern for me. There's butt inlet cleanup, which is a high and important process. We need to get the cleanup done so all the little critters that are down there can exist, and we can also get dredging done by the Army Corps, which should be doing it but won't do it as long as there's contamination involved in the shipping channel. And then, of course, it's just leading the community in various aspects of how we can have a positive impact in the commission. And he's not going to be able to push very hard. Try, Dave. Try. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Would you like me to reread the question?
No, thank you. For me, I think there's 3 big reasons as well. 1, committing to environmental restoration, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because for us in Thurston County, restoring the environment and having a beautiful environment is actually part of our economic development value. It's part of the property tax values that then come back and regenerate the port's coffers, very small property tax. Number 2, taking advantage of a real sea change in what our opportunities are. After years of globalization and pushing more and more on how we can get goods from here to there fastest and back again, we're in a moment when even the federal policy is trying to push for reshoring of manufacturing, and it creates some really interesting conditions that are different than the ones that have been under Commissioner McGregor's career at the port. And most importantly, restoring trust. So you only get a candidate like me, in my district, in the primary, I won by 54% to 38%. And it's because the port has made certain decisions that have started to break trust with the community. And we can talk about that a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Again, 1 minute answers. And Jasmine, we're going to start with you. This one's from Doug M., whoever that is. Why do you want to serve as a port commissioner? You have 1 minute.
I mentioned the three big things, and I feel my opponent talks about how experience matters, and I think I have unique qualifications to help address those big three things right now. Having served both as nonpartisan staff in the legislature on economic development issues, technology and energy, good government, and then having served as the Director of Policy and Legislation at the Department of Commerce, an agency I was on the executive team with a $7 billion combined capital and operating budget, and that grew from 250 to 500 staff. What I can do is scan the horizon, understand opportunities, and build bridges to partners that we haven't necessarily been partnering with in the Port of Olympia. I think that's the way we're going to make the most out of really a once-in-a-generation opportunity we have to transform what economic development looks like in Thurston County.
Will you read the question again, please? Thank you.
Yes, sir. You ready? Why do you want to serve as a Port Commissioner?
Well, I think that it's very important collaboration amongst our, my public enemies. No, not my public enemies. Well, you never know. But I think collaboration, partnerships with our Thurston County commissioners, with our cities that we have to deal with as part of the economic development opportunities of the port is very important. And I think if you saw The Voice come out, I think it was in August, where Lisa, who was a former port employee, is now the city manager at Tumwater, and then Rick Walk, who is the new city manager at Lacey. When they were doing interviews, I saw the word collaboration, partnership come up several times during the discussion. And I don't think the port has reached out and done much of that lately. We need to do that. We did it for a while there, and then COVID hit, and then everything kind of came to we changed directions, and we haven't gotten back out there. They just started going to Denino last, I think on the 25th of September. So I think it's important that we gather our people together, we get our partnerships in line, and that was a long minute.
Okay, next question, we're going to start with Bill. This is from Matt, and the question is, who are your role models in politics and why?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think I look at people who are in elected office as those that are collaborating and trying to bring people together, because that's what this opportunity allows us to do, is to bring people together for the common good of the community. And I think that anybody that's doing that, Doug Ma is one of my role models. I've had counsel with him on several times on different issues. You know, he had the ability to bring both sides together. That's what I look like. That's what I like to look like. And I think if you look at my endorsements, which are many, you'll see that I have D's, I have R's, and I have I's, which is always an indication of someone who can bring a team together to make things happen. And that's why I want to run.
Bill, Jasmine, would you like me to read the question? It says not.
I think he just said.
One moment, please.
Now you can down use them. Just like the people about this.
Jasmine, the question is, who are your role models in politics and why?
Thank you. I think it's fitting that here in this local office you have a local role model. For me, I had the great privilege of serving as the Policy and Legislative Director at the Department of Commerce under a woman named Lisa Brown. For those of you who don't know her history, she's a PhD economist who first ran for the legislature as a single mom and kind of made some waves because she had a baby she was still nursing in the wings when she was elected. That might not seem like a big deal now, but it was when she started her career. It was a pleasure for me to work at Commerce under Lisa Brown because although she's from the city of Spokane, which is heavily Democratic, she's from the east side of the state and had a real awareness of kind of the urban and rural divide and the need to kind of bridge that divide and connect in how we do our funding and make our policy decisions. So for me, the role model I received there, I think, is that there are ways to choose the less divisive issues so that we can build community together across urban and rural. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. And we started with Bill last time. Jasmine, this question is for you. It's from Troy. What unpaid community service work did you do in the community prior to announcing your candidacy for office?
That's a great question. And in this community, not much other than community building with my family and with the schools. So I happen to be a mom, although I look like I'm not a day over 39, I'm sure. So you won't be surprised to hear that I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old child. And when I moved here over 10 years ago and my first baby was a newborn, I immediately had sort of positions that took more than 40 hours a week in serving the public. So my public service often was through my work, both in the legislature, you guys maybe know what session is like, and then through the pandemic as a policy director at a state agency. That said, one of my opportunities right now, because I am stepping away from that full-time state service at that level, is to get more engaged and donate my time. And that's what I look forward to doing. Thank you. You can join our Rotary Club. After seeing Nita's breakfast, I'd really like to come here next week.
1 minute, please. Okay, Bill, you want me to reread the question?
No, that's fine.
Okay, Bill, you have 1 minute.
My entire career has been built around community service. I've served on many boards here in Thurston County. I like to get involved. The EDC, I was on that board for a while. The YMCA, I was on their board for a while. I was on the Thurston Community Television when it was Thurston Community Television and not Thurston Community Media. I was on their board for a while. I love serving as a Rotarian in this very community. I think that bringing those clubs together, we can do a lot of benefit for our community that a lot of people don't know about. But I have had years of service in a Capital, not in Capital Little League, but Black Hills as a coach, as on their board. I've done a lot of things, and I look for things to do service because that's what I'm passionate about as well. Giving back to my community and sacrificing my time, and not necessarily as a sacrifice, but keeping myself busy. I think that's what keeps me younger, and I'm only 39 as well.
Thank you, Bill. Bill, we're going to start with you on this next question. This question is from Tom. What is the largest operational budget for which you have personally had responsibility?
Thank you. Well, in my career as a staff person, my largest responsibility was when I was at the Port of Grays Harbor as a director of operations over the marina, the airport, and Westport Marina. So that was multi-million-dollar. When I came back into Olympia, of course, our budget is somewhat smaller, but not that much smaller. I think it's about 12 million usually, and that's usually the size that I feel comfortable with. I think that that kind of highlights my even in my church where I served for a number of years, I was on the board of that, and so it had a couple of $100,000 as a budget, but I'm very comfortable working with multi-million-dollar budgets and making sure that the staff is pulling the road in one direction and meeting the demands of the commission, who has to meet the demands of the community.
Mr. Bill, Jasmine, would you like me to reread the question?
No, thank you.
All yours.
Well, during my service at the Department of Commerce, I was part of a 3 or 4 member executive operations team whose job it was to do quarterly reviews with each division, and that involved review of the budget. Now, the question is both apt and not apt, because I think for hiring an executive director, we would really want to understand how they personally manage the budget. For your commissioners, what we want to know is, do you understand how budgets are structured? Can you understand if things are being elided or represented in a way that's blocking transparency to the community? And one of the reasons people came and asked me to run is that they felt that although I'm sure there's nothing underhanded in the way the port's budget is structured. I'm sure it meets all accountability standards in terms of the state or regulation. It's failing to kind of help communicate the story of what we're subsidizing and why we're subsidizing it. So I do think how you look at budgets is really important. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is, we're going to start with Bill, and it comes from Andrew. There has been a lot of discussion about closing the actual Port of Olympia. Actually, we're going to start with Jasmine, I'm sorry. There has been a lot of discussion about closing the actual Port of Olympia. Do you support continued traditional port operations? Jasmine? You want me to reread that?
Well, I'm trained as an attorney. And when you say continue traditional, that's almost like a compound question. Because I support continued operations, but maybe not traditional operations at this moment of massive transformation. So doing economic development at the Department of Commerce, I really got a strong sense that our industrial lands have special value to the community and to the world, and that industrial parcels, once lost, are very hard to recover, okay? So to the extent we have, thanks to the port, lands that are devoted to industrial use, we can deploy them strategically for the benefit of everybody. I think what that looks like for us, there's a history of where the Port Peninsula 50 years ago was full of canneries and mills, and over time, they're not there anymore, right? Nothing stays the same, everything changes. Thank you. Okay.
Bill, would you like me to reread the question?
If you would.
This question is from Andrew. There has been a lot of discussion about closing the actual Port of Olympia. Do you support continued traditional port operations?
Well, I do support continued traditional operations at the port. That marine terminal is really a cash cow for the port once we get cargo moving across the dock. The more cargo across the dock, the more money we make. Now, there's been a lot of talk about, well, after depreciation, you're losing money. But if you look at what some of the side effects are as the economic impact statement done in 2021, I believe it was, it shows that, yeah, we lost about 1.1 million in depreciation, a non-cash operational deduction that has to be done for the Gatsby and those kind of accounting things. But when you look at the underlying result is $20 million in wages and taxes that are paid out to the individuals working for those 400 jobs that are there. And also, if you look at what federal and state taxes in the millions, one is $5 million and one is another $3 million that go back into the communities in which we serve. Those are things that are intangibles that are not included in any kind of a finance thing. Profit and loss, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, we're going to move to the next question is from Lynn, and Bill, we're going to start with you. What is your position on the marine terminal? If it is to keep it open, what are the community benefits that we should know? If your position is to close it, how would you offset the environmental costs that are currently being mitigated by the revenue from warehousing?
Good question. I think I answered most of that in my previous response. But what are you saying, Len? Speak up.
I didn't know the other question was being asked.
Oh. In any event, I am not foreclosing the marine terminal. I think that it has a benefit to our community. It's 400 jobs, 200 of which are directly related to the terminal itself, and another 200 jobs which are a result of what they call induced jobs, which people spending money in the community that are making funds down there. I think what we need to do a better job of down there is really doing a better job of marketing. And we don't have that now. We've got a person that's in charge of it, does a good job. He brought in 18,000 tons of, or encouraged a shipper to come in with 18,000 tons of eucalyptus pulp paper. There's another shipment, I understand, that's coming in later in November. And so this could be a continual operation. But as I said, the more cargo that moves across the dock, the more money you're going to make. And that's been proven in several years when we've had record numbers of shipments. So.
Thank you, Bill. Jasmine, would you like me to reread that mouthful of a question?
No, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, we need to be honest and open with the community to understand what's going on at the marine terminal, what its prospects are, and why we think it's important. I think it's confusing when on the one hand we claim it's a cash cow, and on the other hand we know that with the way cargo and freight works, there's boom and bust years. There might be a couple good years you can refer to, and in today's massive economy where container ships are never going to be coming down here, for quite some time there's been a lot of bust years for the marine terminal. We can't just say we're waiting for our ship to come in and once we do better marketing it will come. Investing in a $4 million crane did not actually recruit new cargo. I visited with the longshoremen and Weyerhaeuser both, and they both kind of were laughing about the crane. I'm not laughing because I know it's hard to govern, and that was a play trying to bring more business in. So here's where I think collaboration is the key and not marketing. I've talked to the state's maritime sector lead. She's been calling ports all through the Sound about collaborating for a plan for the regional clean tech economy. Hopefully, someone will be there to answer the phone shortly.
Thank you. Bill, I'm sorry, Jasmine, we're going to start with you. One more question here. Do you believe we should have cruise ships come into our port? The mic is here.
That is fascinating. I believe that Thurston County is beautiful and that downtown Olympia is and can be an even better place to visit. So I believe we have a tourist opportunity if we connect our waterfront more closely with our downtown. I believe that can be for everyone's benefit. Now, cruise ships, I see someone kind of looking, what are you saying? When I think of cruise ships, I think of really massive ships, and I think of the places I've been in Hawaii or other places where it kind of creates a sort of microeconomy around the cruise ships that actually isn't the kind of place that I've wanted to live. So I think it's about the size of the ships and the way they fit into our community. But yes, there's a tourism opportunity for people to arrive by boat, spend money here, and go away. I just don't think of cruise ships as the way to accomplish that necessarily. And I'd be interested in feasibility studies and understanding more about that question.
Bill, do you want me to reread the question?
No, that's fine.
Thank you.
So back in about 2017, we came this close to having American Cruise Line, which is much smaller cruise ships, not the big behemoths you see pull into Seattle. But they do some very local movements of people through the Puget Sound area, Port Angeles, Bremerton. We were this close and ran into a little snafu there. I think it's still a possibility. I think we need to do proper marketing, and I think we need to do business development with them, because I think getting them into our capital city for those tourists to come in and tour the capital, hopefully downtown will get cleaned up so it's not such a dredge to the impressions that we have of what Olympia is now versus what it was like. But I think it's a real possibility, and I'm encouraged to try to do that again. I came so close, and it was disappointing not to see it happen. But there are cruise ships out there that are much smaller and bring in 700-800 passengers at a time.
Thank you, Bill. This next section, we're going to, each of you have an opportunity to ask the other candidate a question, and then the other candidate has the opportunity to respond. You have 1 minute. Bill, you just went. Would you like to start?
Sure. So what I like to do about this question is I like to write some questions down and put them in envelopes, and I let the candidate, my opponent, choose what envelope they want, and I have no idea what's in that envelope because I don't keep track of them. So I have 5 envelopes here.
Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune, there we go. So I have 5 labeled 1 through 5, various questions. None of them are duplicated. So I would like Jasmine to pick one envelope and then answer that question.
4. Oh, this is a game.
No help from the audience.
So there you go. There you go. You chose number?
I went straight down the middle.
Would you read the question?
I will. Not that I have to do this, I'm just doing it. What are the physical boundaries of the Port of Olympia Can a port operate in another county in Washington state, yes or no? If yes, how can that be done? If not, why not? Oh, Bill, these questions all fit within the 4 points of a Rotarian. So the physical boundaries of the Port of Olympia are all of Thurston County. In fact, I think one of our challenges, as I've knocked on doors in my district, is people really think about the marine terminal in Swantown and they think that's the port because that's Olympia. And they don't understand so much of the land that's owned by the Port of Olympia is actually in Tumwater, within the city limits of Tumwater. So the port's boundary as a taxing district or a local government entity is all of Thurston County, and a lot of its land is in Tumwater. It has about $500 million of assets that we can leverage for the common good. Can a port operate in another county in Washington state? Yes or no? Yes, with permission from the port that operates in that county. This was one of the real conflicts in Maytown. So Port of Tacoma had, how can that be done? An interagency agreement between the two ports allows that to happen. So when the Port of Tacoma was operating in Maytown, it wouldn't have been able to do what it was doing without having the express permission of the Port of Olympia. Thank you.
Thank you. Jasmine, would you like to ask a question of Bill?
Sure.
Can I recycle the envelope? You can keep the question.
Oh, here you go. But can you show me the other 4? All right.
Another time.
So this is a friendly place where what we're doing is building goodwill and better friendship. I'm still going to ask you a little bit of a tougher question, which is basically, I am not incumbent, right? I'm new to this, and I really had a strong showing in my district in the primary, right? And you've been elected for 4 terms working at the port. So I think that does show some level of a broken trust with my community where I'm based. And the question is this. As I've looked at work sessions in the past where there's often been one port commissioner who kind of has a different viewpoint than the 2 in majority, I've seen many examples where that one has tried to put things on the agenda for discussion and not been able to put those issues on the agenda. Bill, if you're elected instead of me to be port commissioner, do you think you can apply these principles to sort of be patient with allowing discussion of things that you might feel aren't necessary based on your knowledge, but that are important to other community members?
Good question. As a Rotarian, I believe in these 4 principles. I try to practice that in my career and in my life, my personal life, because I think they're important. And I am always open to discuss other items that come up. And getting them on the agenda is the responsibility of the president of the commission and the executive director. Now that we're going to have 2 additional candidates or 2 additional districts, it's going to allow for more discussion in that regard, because now 2 of us can sit down with the executive director and keep that communication flow going. And I think that's going to add to better decisions, better discussion, and also it gives the rural parts of the county representation that they have not had, because most of the commissioners live up in the north side or the north end of the district. If you look at where they're placed and where their residents are, they're all up in the corner. So having a District 4 and a District 5 spreads the representation out, which means we'll have a better chance and opportunity to have those kind of discussions. So thank you.
Okay, how about 1 minute closing comment from each candidate? Bill, you were last. Would you like to start?
Well, I want to thank you for having these forums. Every time I've run for election, I've looked forward to having them in front of this group. We are on the rubber chicken circuit, I like to call it, because that's usually what we get for lunch if we're at a forum or at a discussion. And so I'm kind of tired of chicken. I'm looking forward to the election to be over. I am asking for your vote and a vote of confidence that I can continue to do some of the many things that I've gone. Please go to my website, billforport.com. See my accomplishments that I've done in the 15 years that I've been on the commission. I don't sit back and let others drive the show. I like to be a part of it. I might work the clutch, I might work the brake, but in any event, I'm there to help steer this commission. It is a big ship, and it takes time to to get it to go in a different direction. Thank you.
First of all, thank you all for being so welcoming. I know that this is your Rotary Club, Bill, and that it shows that, oh, no? Okay. Well, this is really been I can't believe I started that debate. Okay, so this has been such a welcoming place to be. For me, I just want to leave you with the message that I think the port has statutory authority to do things that haven't been in its playbook, connecting farms and ranches and small businesses to broadband, where there's so many that don't have access at the speed that's necessary for the modern economy. Helping our 1,000 small farms in Thurston County, 95% of which are family owned, continue to be productive by fostering sort of collaborative access to infrastructure for our small farms. And making the most of our incredible connection to the sea. I guess that's it. And I really want to thank you, and I look forward to having breakfast with you again.
Another round of applause for our candidates.
All right.
You were way better at saying your website over time.
All right, well, thank you. Another round of applause for both the candidates, please. And of course, Dave Dusek for moderating. All right.
Good job, Dave.
Now it is time for our Sergeant at Arms. Please welcome Jerry Farmer.